Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some new products from Altenew. I am using their nostalgic florals, the stamps, dies, and stencils. I'm also using this new die set. It's called XO, and more. It's got like a bunch of just really good general sentiments in it. And then I'm also using this gem pattern 3D embossing folder. This is not part of the new release, but here is what I have found. Because I'm a different kind of card maker, everybody's different, really. We're all on our own different art journeys. So what I have found is when I'm using something that is like stamps, dies, stencils, that kind of I feel limited myself because I'm a colorist creatively, I like to try to play around with my backgrounds. So what I did here was I'm just using Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock. I spritzed the back of it with some water. And then I'm taking Altenew's Antique Gold Pigment Ink Pad, and I am rubbing it on the section that will deboss, the section that will be impressed into it. And because it's pigment ink, it's going to stay wet longer. So here you can see I've closed my lid. I'm just going to secure that with a piece of low tack tape so it doesn't move as I'm running it through. And then you'll see that it presses that ink into those lines, and then it just cleaned up like normal with a baby wipe. I'm also going to do just some like gold ink splatters. I could not find I actually think they're in my backpack for work, and looking back now, but I could not find my metallic watercolors, and so I'm just using Gold Perfect Pearls, mixing that with a little bit of water, and I'm going to splatter it on the background. This is a bit more of a yellow gold, but then once I'm done doing this step, I decided that I wanted to really make that metallic shine, that background, just make it more interesting. And so I'm using Altenew's embossing powder in the same gold color. It's the antique gold. And I'm just sprinkling it over. And because this is a pigment ink that stays wet longer, you can actually heat emboss with it much longer than like a dye ink. And so here I just went in. If you get ink where you don't want it or it's sticking where you don't want it, you certainly can go in with a dry paintbrush and clean it up. I was going for a much more organic look. And then some people don't know this. You can emboss with water. And so I wanted some of those little speckles to be the color of the embossing powder. So I just used that same paintbrush that I used for the Perfect Pearls and did some more spatters, and then while they were still wet, I sprinkled on some more embossing powder. So now I'm going to have a combination of the gold metallic that's embossed into the lines, the gold metallic spatters that are also the heat embossed, and then the gold metallic spatters that are just the Perfect Pearls. And this is just going to give me a more interesting card base to put my florals on. You don't have to do this with a geometric pattern. You can do this with any 3D embossing folder that you have. And it's also a really good way if you struggle with metallics and how to add like just a little bit of it, just for a little bit of shine. This is a great way to do that because the shine is really just limited to the impressed lines. So maybe try this with some of the ones that you have. So now that the background is done, I am going to set this aside and then I'm going to work on my stamping and stenciling. This video is actually part of a blog hop for Altenew, and they're doing some giveaways and things. So I will link that below if you're watching on YouTube for you to be able to check that out. So you have some chances to win some good stuff. Everybody wants to win things, right? So as my husband would say, if it's free, it's for me. So here I am just stamping down my flowers. I am using the, I think it's permanent black is what it's called from Altenew. And then I am going to stamp, in addition to that large floral, there's actually 2 large flowers in this set and then like a third little one. But then I'm also going to stamp these leaves, which are a little bit different and will just create a little bit more interest. The stencils color all of the items, which is kind of nice when you're looking to make things very quickly. When I was done with this card, like raw footage, all completely done, I only had an hour worth of footage, so it was very quick. let's talk about these stencils. So the way Altenew does their stencils, they actually letter their stamps. And so you can see right on the stamp set, like there's an A, a B, a C, a D, all that jazz. And then so the stencils are actually lettered the same way. So it's really easy to figure out what goes with what. And they're like a B1, B2, so you know what order they go into. I like a lot of dimension in my cards, so sometimes I struggle with stenciling a little bit. A way that I have found to kind of get around that is by using more than one color with my ink blending. So I started here, my base color was Mountain Mist, and then I added a little bit of shading with Lagoon, and I did that for both of these. Here for, I struggle with this a little bit, just real talk, and it's the same thing with layering stamps. Of trying to figure out good colors that I would like to layer and be happy with. So the first time that I'm using a stencil, and for me this is the first time, like you're seeing it on camera, I just like to go in there and kind of do steps, 1, 2, 3, and then figure out what it looks like before I decide how much shading I'm going to add, because some stencils have more steps where they put the shading in for you, and some stencils have less. So I'm starting with Lavender Fields, and this is going to be my base color. I don't really like purple. Real talk, I don't really like purple. Purple's like meh on my list. But I do like purple with gold. And so that is how we settled on this color combination here in my craft room. So I'm just putting down a super light layer of this Lavender Field on each one of the flowers, just so I can see, like I said, how they're layering. And then once I'm done with that, I will go back in and add some more shading with those other purples, purpley pinks that I have picked out. You'll also notice that in addition to taping down my stencil, this is me just figuring out the leaves before I move on. In addition to the stenciling, I also could not resist adding just a little bit of shading with some artist markers, just because I do like that dimension, but it isn't necessary. So I'm taping these down, but you'll also notice that I am taping off any areas where I am concerned that I will get ink that it doesn't belong. Not so much on the like super outside areas, because I know I'm die cutting this out, but on the areas that are, the stencil is open on the actual flower, I try to make sure that I mask those as well, just to make sure that I keep everything super clean. So here I've added some shading with Purple Wine and then with some Deep Iris. And you'll notice that this adds, the Purple Wine especially, adds just a little bit more pink to the flower. So it's kind of like the color glazing that we've talked about in the past with markers, but you're just doing it with ink. So you're just changing the tone with the inks. So here you see me, I'm taping down the sides, and then I'll use this third piece to just tape over that leaf to make sure that I'm not getting any ink where I don't want it. And because this satin tape, this is the satin tape from Altenew, is pretty low tack, and I use mine multiple times, like over and over again, I don't have to worry about it like tearing my paper or anything like that. So we're just going to go through and do the same thing. This time we're just adding more shading. And like I said, in a little while, I'll go in with just, I think I just used 2 or 3 artist markers to just add some additional dimension just to the flower. I didn't even do that with the leaves at all. So we talked about the blog hop. We talked about that. So yesterday I posted a video where I had an extra special guest, which was my 9-year-old son. And can I just tell you, thank you for all of you who were super kind and left him encouraging messages. He, like, first thing this morning, he was like, "Did you post the video?" Which I had. And he was like, "What did people say? What did they say?" And I am not a big proponent. You guys know this if you watch my channel. Like, I don't ask you to subscribe. I don't ask you to follow or like, even though that immensely helps my channel, because I'm not going to beg you for it. That's just my personality. Like, if you're here and you appreciate the content and it's something that you're interested in following, I imagine that you will do that. And if you're not, that's okay too, because I'm not for everybody. I know that, and I'm fine with it. So I try to make sure that I instill in him, and I'm sure my daughter, as she gets older, that your worth or your value or the value of the things that you're contributing, in my case, it's, my artwork, is not based on likes and hearts and follows. My artwork has worth whether anybody sees it or not. And I think it's a big problem that we have today with social media. So I do try to instill that in him. Nonetheless, he was very excited to read your extraordinarily kind comments. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that, for encouraging him and lifting him up, and not, poo-pooing him or having negative things. Not that he will never be exposed to those things. Of course he will be. And of course, as his mother, I will want to protect him from those things, and I will be unable to, because such is life. But I do thank you so much for all of the kind things. He read through all of the comments this morning before school, and he was very, very excited and encouraged to see those. I guess that's also kind of ironic that I make sure that I try to instill in him that, it's not like the likes and the follows and stuff is not what makes it worthwhile. But then at the end of the video, like randomly, he's like, subscribe to my mother, which was hysterical. And I did laugh. Mostly because it's ironic. It's something I never say on my channel. Like that's just not me. So now that my stenciling is done here, I'm just going through and figuring out which colors are going to work best for what I want. As far as adding dimension to my flower, I really did not do a whole lot. I went in and I added some darker shadows, just like we've talked about in the past, where 2 points meet and where one object lays on top of another. So where another petal covers another, there's shadows. And then I also, just to give it a little bit more shape, you ever seen that reel? Like, it just needs a little shaping. It's really not that bad. They're actually talking about hair in that one. But anywho, I did go in and do my little triangle technique. So anywhere that the petal was drawn, that it kind of bowed in, I added just a little triangle of darkness. And this is going to help give the flower a little more shaping, a little more definition. The only other place that I added any kind of shading is this front petal where it's kind of coming out at you. I did add just a little bit of shading there. And then once I had my shadows in, I just went in with a lighter color and kind of blended them out. That's why you could see me doing like the little color test strip over there. So I knew that I would be relatively close to what I had going on, and it would just blend into the stenciling that I had already done. In addition to that, I did add a little bit of shadows to the center of the flower. And then I used the, what is this? It's a Y24. I'll link it. Yep, I will. I use that to color in the stamen of the flower. So I picked out this little sentiment that says, hello, friend. And I'm going to cut the letters out in white, like the more delicate portion of the word. And then the shadow I'm going to do in Altenew's brushed gold, just to tie in the gold that I have going on in the background. So I'm going to pop these out, and they were, honestly, I was kind of surprised. I didn't realize they would be so delicate, and they're super pretty little script. And I always love a good general sentiment that you can just send for any reason whatsoever if I actually send cards, which I don't. I mean, I hand deliver them to my family. Pretty much it. But anywho, so I did use, to adhere these together, Altenew has a glue pen, and it actually dries repositionable, so you kind of got to work a little bit quickly, but it has like this teeny tiny little nib on it, and they're like the old school, like where you push down on it and that is what releases the glue. So it works kind of like a water brush, where you squeeze the sides to move it down, and then you push on the nib and it releases the glue. But it does make doing the little teeny tiny die cuts relatively simple. Like I said, you just have to work quick, because if you let it dry, then it's repositionable and your sentiment appears to be secure, but is not actually secure. So yeah, that's that. Put those together. This really was, like I said, a very, it's a pretty card. I'm by no means, like I started off my video with, like, I feel like it stifles my creativity, which maybe was a little bit more negative than I meant it to be. I am a person who likes my cards to look like my cards. And sometimes when I am using products that, cover all the bases, the stamping, the die cutting, the coloring, like, I feel like my cards maybe don't look like my cards. And so that's why I try to concentrate on the background to maybe look more like myself. Let's talk about this friend die cut. So I lost I believe it's called the tittle. I lost the dot of the I, and there was no way I was finding it. So in order to replace it, I actually just used my white gel pen and just went right over that brushed gold and colored that in white, and nobody will be any the wiser that I was missing it in the first place. So for here to put everything together, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on each side of my leaves, so that way I can just put them down over these leaves behind them and pick them all up as one piece. And like, are the other leaves necessary? Maybe not. I just think it makes it look like makes the flower look a little bit more interesting because it has some more color variation. But this floral is certainly large enough to carry the card on its own. If you were really looking for a very quick card, these are so excellent for super quick cards. So I just glued that down flat. And then because I already have the word die and then the shadow, these are already going to be kind of raised up. So I didn't feel like I needed to add any dimensional adhesive to them. I felt like they were dimensional enough. And so again, I'm just going to adhere them down flat. Plus they're sitting on top of my, flower and stuff. So that's going to give them a little extra boost because you have that layer of cardstock. And so this is just like a super good, just general, I just wanted to send you a little note kind of friendship card, which I think are always good to have in your, in your arsenal in case, you have a friend who all of a sudden is just having a bad day and maybe needs a little pickup. I use the same white gel pen to highlight the stamen in the flower. Again, just another little thing you can add to kind of make it your own and give it a bit more dimension. I added some shimmer to my flowers using a clear glitter pen, and then that is the whole thing. That's the whole card. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Like I said, I hope you'll head over to the blog to participate in the hop. There's lots of really talented designers using all kinds of things from the release. I appreciate your time and your kindness, especially to my son, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.